Vice President running mate.
WGN's Gaynor Hall joins us now, and Gaynor, they immediately went on the attack against their opponents this November.
They sure did, Taman and Micah, and it was a socially distanced introduction to the Democratic ticket. Harris wasting no time taking aim at President Trump's handling of the pandemic, saying he just isn't up for the job.
I have no doubt that I picked the right person to join me as the next Vice President of the United States of America, and that's Senator Kamala Harris.
From rivals to running mates, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris appearing together today for the first time as partners on the Democratic ticket in a socially distanced campaign rollout.
As I said, Joe, when you called me, I am incredibly honored by this responsibility, and I'm ready to get to work.
Harris is the first woman of color on a major party ticket.
She has always been a star.
Forrest Hayes first met her during freshman orientation at Howard University.
It means a great deal to me as an American to have someone of Kamala's intellect and her experience and capabilities on the ticket, because it's very important. And I think this might likely be the most important election of my lifetime.
The candidates say they bonded over Biden's son, Beau. He died from brain cancer 5 years ago. Biden also noting today is the third anniversary of the violent clash in Charlottesville that he says pushed him to run.
We don't have to accept the failed government of Donald Trump and Mike Pence. In just 83 days, we have a chance to choose a better future for our country.
More reaction today from President Trump.
She said horrible things about him, horrible things. And she mocked him, openly mocked him. That's why I thought that was a very risky pick.
It's no surprise, because whining is what Donald Trump does best, better than any president in American history.
Trump's campaign is painting Harris as too liberal. Some on the left, pointing to her record as a prosecutor, say she's not liberal enough.
Her record is going to be contorted and manipulated 6 ways to Sunday. And I think it's important for people of independents, Republicans, progressives to look at her record in its totality.
Valerie Alexander served as the head of Harris's leadership team in Illinois during her presidential run.
She is a fierce advocate, a champion. If you look at the hearings that she had in judiciary, she doesn't back down from a fight, no matter who you are or what you're throwing at her.
And at a virtual grassroots fundraiser tonight, Biden said the campaign has raised $26 million in the 24 hours after Harris joined the ticket. Taman and Micah.
Gaynor, thank you. A new article in the Washington Post offers some analysis on the Biden-Harris ticket. It's titled, "Harris is a small C conservative, party-friendly pick," which makes her just right for Biden.
So joining us now is the author of that piece, Washington Post political columnist David Byler. Thank you so much for joining us, David.
Thanks for having me.
Small C conservative party, a friendly pick, as you say. Is it because she's a safe choice, and why?
Yeah, so a few things make Harris a safe choice. First is her experience on the campaign trail. So like we saw in the last segment, she ran for the Democratic presidential nomination in 2020, and she showed during that run that she could do well on the campaign stump. She could do well in the debates. She's someone who sort of has the ability to go out and do the basics of campaigning really well. On top of that, she has sufficient experience. No one's going to question whether or not she spent enough years in public office and in public life to be able to assume the presidency. And she's sort of a party-friendly pick. As the Democratic Party is becoming more racially diverse, more reliant on women, more reliant on young voters, Harris sort of fits a lot of categories and kind of is a personal acknowledgement of the direction that the Democratic Party is heading. So in a lot of ways, she's sort of a coalition pick for the vice presidency, but she's also someone who isn't going to create any bad news cycles for Joe Biden. It's hard for vice presidents to bring many new votes in, but they can create problems, and I don't think Harris is going to really do that.
President Trump continues to talk about the suburbs, suburban housewives. How does Senator Harris poll among that demographic?
So it's kind of interesting. Trump's tweeting about suburban housewives, and Oftentimes in the suburbs, both parents in families that have children are working. Oftentimes these are voters who might have voted for Republicans in the past, but have sort of flipped to the Democratic Party as the Republicans nominated Trump and sort of went on sort of a more Trump-ish path. So I think Harris is actually a potentially good candidate for that set, in that she can bridge the divide between multiple parts of the party. During the primary, a lot of analysts, myself included, sort of tagged Harris as a consensus candidate, someone who would really be able to bring the Democratic Party together if she had got enough initial momentum behind her. So I think that still holds up, and I think sort of, more suburban-ish, technocratic wing of the Democratic Party is going to be happy with Harris.
David, you also say that she's not necessarily going to add votes for former Vice President Biden, but keep him exactly where he is. What do you mean by that?
Right. So if you look into the historical data on vice presidential candidates and you look at, where polling bounces have happened, you go deep into the survey data, oftentimes what you find is that vice presidential candidates don't add a specific demographic. Sometimes they help in their home state. Sometimes they give a little boost here or there. But the upside is just limited because most voters vote based on the presidential candidate rather than the vice president. What sometimes happens, though, is a vice presidential candidate can create bad news cycles and create problems and create things that damage the campaign. So the downside is there, even if the upside isn't. There are some analyses that suggest that Sarah Palin cost John McCain a number of votes in the 2008 election. And since then, every president has been thinking, okay, we need someone who is very ready, who's not going to cause any problems. And that's sort of the first litmus test. And I think Harris passes it.
David, at the end of the day, progressives did not want a moderate ticket like this. Is there any long-term fallout for the Democratic Party?
That's a great question. I think it's hard to answer that at this point. I think in the short term, there's probably not a lot because the progressives who would be unhappy with Biden or unhappy with Harris would be much more unhappy with a Trump second term. So I think in the short term, it's probably going to be just fine for the Biden-Harris ticket. In the long term, it depends on how Biden and Harris position themselves. Biden is sort of an institutionalist. He's someone who really cares about his party, and he's always tracked sort of the median Democrat, even as that has moved left over the years. He sort of updated his ideology to track that. So my guess is that as the party moves left, Harris and Biden are going to sort of try to keep things together and please both the right wing and the left wing and sort of the bigger center middle left wing. And that's just my guess, is that we'll see them go left, but not veer all the way there.
You say that Kamala Harris won't cause problems on the campaign trail. Out of the other candidates, who may have caused problems in your eyesight?
It's hard to say that ahead of time because you don't have sort of that test. You don't put them into the spotlight in that same way. I think this was a concern with Susan Rice, that even though she had held positions that were in the public eye for a long time, she hadn't run for elected office and held elected office. So she might have done just fine in that scenario, but I think that's a risk that the Biden campaign may not have wanted to take on. I think that may have also been a potential drag for Karen Bass, who, although she is in the House of Representatives, has not run a national campaign of the scale of, say, Harris's 2020 presidential primary. Obviously, there are pros and cons to all of these candidates, and Harris has her own disadvantages. And, it's really subjective to say which one might be better than the other. But if I had to think of it in terms of who is more risky and who is more tested, that's sort of the lens that I would take first.
All right, David Byler, Washington Post. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Okay.
Well, Demetrius Ivory is back in less than 10 minutes with more on the weather ahead and new information.